Hello and welcome to Live from the Eagle's Nest at the National Conservation Training Center near Shepherdstown, West Virginia. I'm Randy Robinson and good to be with you today. Thanks for joining us as we get caught up on the last couple weeks of action here at the NCTC or National Conservation Training Center Eagle's Nest. That's the young eaglet that we're looking at in the nest, or that you saw just a little bit ago. The eaglet is 8.5 weeks old right now and doing very, very well. It is an only child. There were 2 eggs laid earlier in the spring, but only one of them hatched. So this little guy is getting all of the fish, all of the food, all of the attention, all of the time, and doing really well. Lately, he's been doing a lot of wing exercising, or wingersizing, as we like to call it, jumping up and down. Especially, there's a little bit of a breeze out today. It's a beautiful day here in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, and the young one has been hopping up and down, getting the feel of that wind under his wings. We've got some great videos to look at that folks have posted online onto the Outdoor Channel. And we've also got Kristin Alexander with us. Kristin is with the Potomac Valley Audubon Society, and she'll be talking with us in a few minutes about getting young people and families involved in the outdoors with birding and other outdoor activities. So thanks for joining us today. Hello to Deb and Paul. Deb's all the way up there in northern Canada, high-level Alberta. Paul's not far from here in Maryland. Sobel in Atlanta, Georgia. Stephanie in Lehigh Valley, PA. Pam in Charleston, South Carolina. And Jesse out in sunny Tucson, Arizona. Stephanie's asking, or Sobel is asking, is there another nest close to this one? Actually, I just learned this the other day, Sobel. There is a nest, to answer your question. The river makes a big bend. Hey, Rob, if we could pull up that map, this would be a good time to look at the map. If you're familiar, if you're not familiar with where the nest is, the yellow star is the National Conservation Training Center. It's the main training facility for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And we are in West Virginia, but the Potomac River is the border, so right on the other side of the river is Maryland, not too far from Hagerstown, Boonesboro, Maryland. Well, there was a nest on the other side of the river. And by the way, not far below us, downstream, is Harper's Ferry, where the Shenandoah River joins the Potomac and then flows on into Washington, D.C. So we're about 70 miles upriver from Washington, D.C. At this point. Not too far from Martinsburg, West Virginia. But you can't see it on the Eagle Cam, but the river is really less than a quarter mile away. So once the Eagle gets airborne, they've got a view of the river, and generally they fly right over the buildings that you're looking at on their way to the river. There's a couple islands there that they like to fish in, and that's sort of their flight path. But getting back to Sobel's question, there is another nest. Downstream it would be 5 miles, but the river makes a big bend, so in air miles, or as the eagle flies, maybe not quite that far. At any rate, the nest was on the Maryland side, and I just learned a couple of days ago, because it's very close to my neighborhood, that for whatever reason, the eagles have rebuilt their nest on the West Virginia side. And we don't know why. There's no camera on the nest, but that nest is the closest one that I know of to this area. And we've got some interesting video to look at a little bit later, where we had another young adult visit the nest and a sub-adult, what we call maybe about a 2-year-old. We'll take a look at those videos a little bit later on. But in the meantime, feel free to send in any questions either on Livestream or YouTube Live, whichever platform you're viewing on. And I want to say hello to all of our new folks visiting with us today for the first time, and all of our old friends who join us from Bald Eagles 101. Big thanks out there to the Outdoor Channel for streaming this, and to the Friends of NCTC for supporting us all these years. We're kind of celebrating the 20th anniversary of this nest. It was started in 2003 by the original pair. Of course, it was much smaller then. They started in 2003, laid their first eggs in 2004, and now here we are 20 years later with that nest that you're looking at is 20 years old now and much bigger. It's almost 8 feet across and a good 5 feet deep, and each year they keep adding to it. It gets bigger and bigger. In fact, you can see the dead limb rising vertically right behind where the eaglet is nesting there. As I mentioned, she's just about 8.5 weeks old. I say she, we don't know if it's a he or a she. Some folks think it could be a male, but we just don't know. At any rate, when they get brave enough to go out and we call it branching, when they actually move out of the nest and onto another branch, they will hop up on one of these posts. Well, in past years, the post on the right, which is only less than a foot above the nest right now, it used to be much higher. It used to be 2-3 feet above the nest, so that'll give you an indication how much that nest has grown in just the past few years. Really, it's just a little bit of a stump right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see this young one get out there in the next week or so. It's still a good 3 to 4 weeks away from being able to fly on its own. So it's 8.5 weeks now. Generally, they fledge or leave the nest for the first time at about 11 to 12 weeks. So we've still got 3-4 weeks of this young one being in the nest. And so we'll say hello to M. Pavia from Bow, Washington, and Lori G. from Western PA. Welcome, everybody. So, Rob, do we have a shot of that, the whole tree or the river that we can take a look at? If not, we can always come back to it a little bit later on. We have 2 cameras now. Here we go. This is some drone footage of the river. And I mentioned the islands. Here's one of the islands that we're looking at. And the drone is actually flying toward NCTC, coming from the Maryland side, going to the West Virginia side of the river. So this is now the favorite hunting ground. Right in here, if the water were shallow, there's some riffles. In fact, there were Native American fishing weirs in this area. A fishing weir is kind of an area that's got some natural rock formations, but you can't see it now because the water's higher in this video. But as it's lower, you can actually see places where the Native Americans piled up rocks and basically sort of made a funnel pointing downstream so that any fish coming down the river would be kind of funneled into this area where they would catch them as they came through this narrow spot, either in a basket or in a trap of some sort, or perhaps spear them. So those are called fishing weir, W-I-E-R, and there's lots of them on the Potomac and the Shenandoah, other rivers, and you can really see them better when the water is, summertime levels when it's lower. But thanks for that video, Rob. And the fishing has been very good. We've seen lots of big fish coming into this nest. We can see the young one out there stretching his wings out, and a little bit later on we might see him hopping around. We got some videos if he doesn't perform for us live here. But Pam is asking, do people kayak this section of the river? Yeah, Pam, it's very nice kayaking. The water's fairly calm. There's a dam upriver. We can go from Dam 4 all the way down to Shepherdstown. It's a very nice stretch to canoe or kayak on. Popular with fishing too, human fishing as well as eagle fishing. And now you can see the young one stretching those big wings out. And keep in mind, 8 weeks ago he just popped out of the shell and was about the size of my fist. And now look at the size of them with good wingspan, probably close to 5-6 feet wingspan now, and only 8 weeks old. So M. Pavia is asking, is it usual for Jefferson to spend so much time at this time in his development along the rim of the nest? It almost seems like she might hang out there to stay cool, but the view is nice too. Yeah, it is. Pretty normal. They vary. We've seen them right out on the edge of the nest, giving people the EBGBs, especially when he wasn't, when he didn't have such good balance. Now he's got pretty good balance. He's got a good, strong grip. In fact, we almost saw him in a tussle last week, getting potentially knocked off the nest. He didn't get knocked off, but the adult male came in and chased another one off. We've got a good video of that. We'll look at it a little bit later. But yeah, he's got a pretty good grip. But you're right. He might go out there to get a little, especially on a hot day, the wind or the air would come up underneath that through those sticks and maybe keep him a little bit cooler. If it gets really hot, we'll see them spread their wings out. Well, right now I'd like to introduce Kristin Alexander. Kristin, thanks very much for joining us today. Kristin is with the Potomac Valley Audubon Society. She is the executive director there. And Potomac Audubon, we're happy to say, is a great partner with us at NCTC, and a super community, super to have in our community here. They do exceptional education outreach work, working with a lot of schools, a lot of young people. So we invited Kristin here today to chat with us about some ideas and activities that Potomac Audubon does to get people interested in the lifelong birding activities. So Kristin, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. You all have been such amazing partners over the years. I'm really happy to do this and give back a little bit. So, like Randy said, he's talking so much about the eagle, and this eagle came is amazing, such a great hook to get people interested in not just eagles, but it's a great entrance into the natural world. And birds in general are a great hook, sort of a gateway to studying the natural world. So the bird's eye view of the eagle's nest is just a phenomenal. And just think about all the things that you've been learning from the eagle's nest. You've been seeing what the parents are bringing in to the baby to eat, seeing how tiny.
Oh, we just lost the connection
growing
there.
With the baby.
Oh, we've got it back.
Are seeing more.
Sorry, Kristin, we lost your connection for just a couple seconds, but go ahead.
Oh. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so just what we can learn from a tool like the Eagle Cam is just phenomenal. And Randy was telling me about the fishing line that was found in the another nest and caused some damage and even the death of a baby eagle. And those kinds of stories can really make us realize the impact that we can have. So the more that we learn about and appreciate eagles, birds, other wildlife, the more we know what we can do to support them and take care of them, etc. Everything from habitat, protecting the places that they live, the places that give them the food and the water and the shelter, and just the space that they need to survive and thrive. Water quality. That eagle is depending on the Potomac River's water quality to provide healthy fish for its baby. So the more we understand the connection to healthy water and healthy eagles, etc., the more we can help to protect that water quality. And air quality is the same thing. That air quality is incredibly important to bird health, other wildlife health, people health, etc. So we have great opportunities to give back and great opportunities to learn and wonderful opportunities to appreciate these creatures. So as I mentioned, they're so charismatic. It's just a great way to sort of launch in and learn about and be inspired to learn about the natural world. Such great attention getters, especially the bright orange of a Baltimore Oriole. We have huge turkeys around here, which are so fun. And I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot more turkeys this year than I have other years for some reason. But they're just everywhere right now. And they're so fun to watch strutting around. And they're so visible because they're so large and such a big contrast to those orioles, for example. And then you have the cardinals that are so accessible, visible at pretty much every bird feeder here on the East Coast. And what an impression they make, especially that bright male. And again, so much we can learn, not just that brightness of the male, but then the more quiet colors of the female. And so many learning opportunities. Why is the female so much more dully colored than the male? Talking about camouflage and other adaptations. And look at that amazing beak of hers, that bright lipstick. It's pretty impressive. So why does she have that bright beak, and why does she have that type of beak that is so long? I was bird banding once, and I got bitten by a cardinal. It was not pleasant. I can tell you, they definitely pack a punch. There is some serious strength in that beak of a cardinal. Perfect for breaking seeds. So birds are such a great way of getting to know adaptations, getting to know so much. And you don't have to go anywhere. I mean, cardinals are on your back feeder in your backyard, depending on where you live. Right around here, they're right here. And we like to teach about adaptations with our local school programs. Here are some kids trying different types of tools to sort of represent bird beaks. So here's a bin of bird seed. Does the pliers work better? Does the spoon work better? Do the tweezers work better? What kind of bird beak is most like the tool, and what tool is most useful like that bird beak? And similar, a woodpecker. So if you have a woodpecker pecking at a log, like this kid is trying to do here, what kind of tool is going to be best? What kind of beak is going to be best for that woodpecker to try to get caterpillars and worms and larvae out of logs and out of tree trunks as they peck that wood? Not only do those woodpeckers need the strong and sharp beak to peck through, but they also need tweezer-like beaks in order to get whatever larva they find in there and pull it out to have a scrumptious meal of larvae. And whereas that nutcracker that you see on the table there is probably not the best tool for that child to use to practice being a woodpecker. So again, it's a great way to just get kids outside. Binoculars or no binoculars, it really doesn't matter. The birds are going to be everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go. They are in every urban park. They're on window ledges. They are, yes, in the wilderness, yes, in rural areas, but they're at schools. They're on your roof. They're on every street corner practically, no matter where you live. And so they're very, very accessible and visible to people and can make such a great impression. And again, hopefully launch some curiosity, hopefully launch some interest, and again, be that hook to get kids interested in the natural world. And so as I said, with urban settings, schools, my son is in elementary school right now, and he is having a blast watching a killdeer raise its young on the playground just under the swing set. And the school has been so good. They have cordoned off the swing set. The kids are just watching from a distance. And I was walking into the school the other day, and there's a bird nest stuck right behind the bell on the building. So they truly are everywhere once you start looking for them. And it's great for all ages. We have kids doing birding and learning about birds and appreciating birds. And then we also have some of my staff looking at birds in one of those photos that's coming up, and just having such a good time and lending their skills to citizen science as well. Going in and studying what they see and how many they see, etc., contributing to the Christmas bird count each year, which is one of the most, it's been going on for 100 years. I mean, a great way to track how many birds are here from one year to another. So we can track population, survivorship, et cetera, just by looking at bird lists that people have compiled. People like you and me have compiled over the years. So it's great data, and it's something that all of us can do, either through an organization called Project Feeder Watch, where you literally just sit in your house and look at your feeders and count the birds that visit your feeders. It can't be any easier than that. And that data is used for scientific purposes. That data is collected all over the country so that we can get data sets to help track populations of birds. We have people from like young children to big children, and even retirees, which are some of them are the biggest children of all. And again, they're contributing to citizen science by going out and doing bird counts, either through like the Christmas bird count that I mentioned or any other bird counts. Right now, the National Audubon Society is doing a climate watch program where we go out, we look for certain birds at certain times of year and track what birds are singing in what locations during what times of year. And National Audubon is compiling all of that data into data sets so that we can, again, track population survivorship and how populations of birds are being impacted by climate change. So they're a wonderful tool for scientific study. They're a wonderful tool for just getting people outdoors and inspired by the natural world. For any teachers out there, they're a great teaching tool, teaching everything from using migration to teach about geography, populations, looking at graphs and maps and things like that, mapping graphs to study math. So there's so many different ways of accessing birds and using them for education. And it's a great hobby. It can be a wonderful, wonderful hobby for anyone. Again, it's totally free to look out your window or to go to a little neighborhood park to go see what birds are there. And, binoculars are great, but definitely not required. Same thing with bird feeders. Bird feeders are great, but you don't need a fancy schmancy bird feeder necessarily. You can make your own. Just throw some bird seed out in a yard or on some pavement, and you've got yourself a bird feeder. And the birds, if you feed them, they will come. They are amazing at finding bird feeders, and it doesn't take them very long. So you can stay as close to home as you'd like, or you can go on world traveling tours all over the world to try to find a new species or make your life list. So it's a wonderful way to see the world or just enjoy your backyard and learn about things that are in your yard that you didn't even know about to begin with. There are a lot of benefits of birding. There's been you may have seen a recent article come out about the mental health benefits of just listening to birds and the amazing impact that can have on your mental health and stress level, anxiety, etc. It's been shown to improve your mental well-being. I know a lot of people have become lifelong friends because they're the birding buddies. They go around and they love to travel together. They love to just go on bird walks together locally. And it can be totally free, and it can be a lifelong hobby. And again, it kind of, I think, keeps that sense of wonder and people's curiosity alive as well. And there's so many ways to learn. Some simple ways, if you're just getting started, putting up a feeder, learning about those backyard birds that, again, will just appear in your yard or in your local park. Just take a walk. Once you start looking for them, you will realize how many birds there are around every corner and every tree, shrub, grassland, etc. It doesn't take much to find them. And there are amazing apps right now. You may have heard of the Merlin app, and it's a free download. And you just push a couple buttons, and it will tell you exactly what birds are calling around you in that particular moment. So it's a great way to learn bird calls. And a lot of birding is done by ear. Those serious birders know their bird calls. And it's a great way to sort of challenge yourself. For those auditory listeners out there, you can thrive on learning birding because so much of birding is done by ear. So it's a wonderful resource that way. Potomac Valley Audubon provides free bird walks, a couple a month. So that's one way if you're local. If you're not local, look for another Audubon chapter around where you live or another birding group. They are everywhere, just like birds. Birding groups are everywhere too. So I definitely encourage you to look there. Our organization has a class called Birding 101 every spring, which includes some classroom work, but then also field trips every weekend to go and learn birds group by group by group by group. And there are bird festivals all over the country. And you can find a birding mentor. People who love to bird love having people to teach and help, with their, share their passion for for birds. So it's a wonderful way of just learning bit by bit and having a mentor. And there's some other resources as well. Cornell Ornithological Society has curriculum for birds, about birds specifically, K through 12. I believe they have a master's in birding class as well, or something along those lines. So there are all kinds of resources. So again, you can go anywhere. Potomac Valley Audubon has preserves here in the Eastern Panhandle. One of them is just down the street, or down the river, or up the river from NCTC, called the Yankauer Preserve. And it has phenomenal birding. One of the things that we love to do in summer camp there is teach the kids just a few bird songs. And one of my favorite is the Eastern Towhee, because it sings "Drink your tea," and the kids just go marching down the trail singing "Drink your tea, drink your tea." And it's just a really fun way to connect kids with birds and the habitat around them. So I strongly recommend that. Cool Spring Preserve, where I'm sitting here today, is a birding hotspot. We've got a phenomenal habitat here of a wetland. We have fields and we have forests and a lot of edge habitat. So it's a fantastic place to come birding. The Eidolon Preserve is in Morgan County, just about an hour west of here. And we have nesting cerulean warblers there, which is pretty special. So that's another place if you're interested in learning more about birds and seeing some ceruleans. That's a really wonderful place to see them. And then Stalfers Marsh, which is in Bat Creek Valley, is a wetland as well, with some open ponds, so you can see waterfowl and ducks, geese, etc. Some wading birds. And then back a little farther in, of course, we have the good old red-winged blackbirds and other species, which are just fun to watch and fun to learn about. In addition to our properties, the C&O Canal, which is right across the river from NCTC and runs from DC, Washington, DC, all the way up to Cumberland, Maryland, is an amazing resource. River habitats, you've got the river and the woods, so right next to each other. Great birding right along there with orioles, barred owls, warblers, you name it. It's just phenomenal habitat. And of course, the eagles. You might see the NCTC eagle there along the river as well, on the C&O Canal. We have Antietam National Battlefield, Harper's Ferry. I haven't heard this year whether there are peregrine falcons nesting on the cliffs there in Harper's Ferry yet or not. But last year they did have a successful brood of peregrine falcon chicks as well. So everywhere you look, if you get online, do a little Googling, you will find fantastic places around you where you can go birding. And, binoculars or no binoculars, app or no app, it's a great way to spend time. It's a great way to just enjoy being outside and learning a little bit along the way.
Well, thank you very much, Kristin, for that great overview of birding. And if you're in this region, the Western Panhandle of West Virginia, definitely check out Potomac Valley Audubon Society. And as Kristin mentioned, they've got some beautiful reserves, one not far from here, several just in the area within maybe an hour's drive. But Kristin, if you could hang on for a couple of seconds, we do have a few questions coming in here. Lori G is asking, is Jefferson's eyesight as keen as an adult at this point? That I don't know, Lori. Good question. I'm not up on, the development of their young eyesight. I know when they're very young, they're not, but, he's growing pretty fast. My guess would be that, his eyesight is still developing, but it won't be long. We've always heard that eagles have such fantastic eyesight, maybe double the telescopic power of human eyes. So, but that's a good question. The next question, I do know the answer to this one, and that is, let's see, where did I find it here? Oh, yeah, Stephanie Radler's asking, and you must be a classroom teacher there, Ms. Radler. Let us know what school you're with, but your students are asking, how high is the nest? The nest is 90 feet off the ground in a big old sycamore tree. The camera itself is about 95 feet off the ground. The tree itself is over 100 feet, but yes, that nest is 90 feet off the ground. Rob just brought up the another picture of it. You can see, you can't see the whole tree here, but you can see the upper half or the upper third of it. So 90 feet off the ground is that nest. The bald eagles like to have a good view of their territory, especially with that keen eyesight that they have. And so Belle is also saying about mentioning about putting out water for birds in bird baths. They do love bird bath. I just fixed mine this weekend, and they love it. I think they love bird baths as much as they love bird food. They are in it every day, and you're right. Change the water every day. Keep it nice and clean your bird feeders too. Birds can get diseases from dirty feeders. Deb is asking, can you tell us the names of the bird apps that you mentioned there, Kristin?
Yeah, the one that most people are talking about right now is Merlin app. One of the features that it has right now is you can literally hold your phone up out your window or on your front porch or on your patio, and it will tell you what birds are singing around you right then and there. And it's pretty phenomenal that way, the way it can hear, quote unquote, hear the sounds and then tell you exactly what bird that song belongs to. There are others too. There's Seek National Audubon has their own app. So there are a lot of birding apps out there. So I definitely encourage you to look around. But the one that's sort of the big buzz right now that everybody is talking about is the Merlin app, just because of the phenomenal ability to identify the bird songs that are around you right then and there. You know, you don't have to do much to get a lot of information.
And it's spelled M-E-R-L-I-N, M-E-R-L-I-N, Merlin. If you search for Merlin, you'll find it. It was developed by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and it is pretty amazing. I've used it, and it'll ID birds and the visual, but it will also, there we go, thank you, Rob. You can also ID them by their song, as Kristin mentioned. It's pretty amazing. Let's see. M. Pavia said, we have towhees in Western Washington. Love them. Beautiful birds. Lori says ebird.org would be wonderful for kids too. It's like a treasure hunt every time you report sightings. M. Pavia says, Merlin app is so wonderful. I've learned so much. Deb says, thanks. And well, thank you, Kristin. Thank you very much for joining us today. Keep up the great work at Potomac Valley Audubon Society. And right now, we're going to take a little time and look at some videos here from the past couple weeks. So again, Kristin, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We hope to see you soon out there on the trail somewhere.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's see. Our first video is from back on May 9th, and this is the young bird. It was a rainy morning, and I believe, let me see what we've got coming up here. Oh yeah, there's some wing drying going on. That's the big female there drying her wings out. And this was from Deb Steck, posted this video. And by the way, all the videos that we'll be looking at here are posted by folks at Bald Eagles 101, Alwa Holly Productions, and most or all of them are on YouTube as well. We'll take a look at some of the highlights of them, but as we mentioned, the young one here has been doing some wing exercises and stretching them out. And this was, he was about 44 days old here, so not quite 7 weeks. But you know, he's wet too. This was a rainy morning. So there he is hopping around. And at this point, you see he's still a little bit wobbly. I mean, this was less than 2 weeks ago. and his leg strength was not quite there yet. In just these past 2 weeks, he's gotten a lot stronger and a lot more stable. And now he can stand on a fish and open it up or unzip it, so to speak. Let's see, this is May 11th. This is another video from Deb. There's a nice fish coming in, big fish. We've seen some real big fish coming in. And yeah, the young one's just been snatching the fish. Oftentimes we'll see that one of the adults might eat the fish, especially the male, Smitty. He likes to get his portion before he brings it back to the nest because he knows once he gets here, the young one's going to take over and take that fish over. So at this point, this was back May 11th, 46 days old, the young one was, still feeding him. Now we are on May 14th, and what's this? You see that young one, that sound they're making, it's raising its hackles up, the feathers rose up. He's claiming that fish, and that's a survival technique. And in past years, that they're defending their fish, essentially. They're learning to do that. And you see what happens there. The adult was just testing. He stuck his beak in there to see if the young one was really serious about it. And she pecked at him, or he pecked at him. So they learn to defend their fish and their food, and that's what they do. They have to do that, or somebody will steal their fish when they're out there in the wild. If they don't guard their own fish, it'll get taken away by another bird. So they've got to be aggressive and they've got to be defensive about it. So this was May 14th. Now May 15th, a little over a week ago, we had some interesting action. Thanks for that video, Paul. This is another one from Paul Kolnick. So it started off as a, pretty nice morning, but it was an unusual day. This is not the resident adult. This is about a 4.5-year-old bird. Now we've edited this video down a little bit. This bird was up on that post for a lot longer, but she came down. I think it's a big female, I'm just guessing just by her size. She was hungry, she came out to get a fish. Now, could this be one of the eaglets from 4 years ago? That's a possibility. She seemed kind of familiar with the nest. She got that fish and took off. And now both the adults were probably down at the river fishing at this point. But here's a little bit of a slow motion. Now what's interesting, I thought, was we didn't see it there so much, but when she first got on the post, like I said, she was up there for several minutes. The young one did not make eye contact with her. If you go on YouTube and look at these and see the whole video, you'll see that the young one initially stayed very still and did not make eye contact. And if you've ever seen a couple of dogs get in a fight or a couple of cats get in a fight, eye contact means they're going to go at it. If one of the other animals, this is common in many other species as well, if one of the animals looks away, does not make eye contact, that kind of means, they don't want to get involved, they don't want to fight. But once they might make eye contact, watch out. So the young one in this case kind of instinctively knew to look away and not make eye contact with that much bigger and older. That bird was probably 4.5 years old. There's another shot of it. Paul got the field cam. That's the shot of the bird we just saw, the non-resident bird. Probably about 4.5 years old by the looks of the feathers. Now, this is the adult male, Smitty, coming back. Now, look at what he's doing. Now, I believe at this point the other bird is below the nest in that branch that we just saw in the video, and so Smitty there is giving a warning He's upset. He's issuing a warning to stay away. Now, there was a little bit of a jump cut there, but we made a quick edit. But now this is a young subadult, probably about 2 years old. Now, Smitty chased the other bird, the adult, away, but while that was happening, and you can see him in the background there, what's this? So Paul put this in slow motion. We'll see it again. While Smitty was chasing the first adult, the 4.5-year-old, away, that young one came in, and this one is about 2 years old by its coloration. But Smitty, very upset. He gave a warning. He flew by several times, and we didn't see that. But the young one didn't know any better, didn't heed the warning, and now it's suffering the consequences. Hopefully it wasn't hurt too bad. It did fly away. You see part of the nest, you can see it kind of hang on, and then it takes off, I believe, to the left-hand side. But, 2 years ago we had young ones in here. Could it have been one of them? Maybe. But regardless, we don't know that. These are not banded. We can't identify them. But regardless, the resident pair would not want any birds other than the two of them in the nest. Now here we're going to jump over to Tennessee for just a minute. This is the Dale Hollow nest in Tennessee, and you can see it's partially collapsed. Now the young one lands on it here. This bird is 11 or about 12 weeks old, maybe almost 12 weeks in this, and it's the remaining young one. This nest has had been a tough year for this nest. They started off with 3. The adult disappeared. One of the adults disappeared. Then one of the young ones passed away. We'll come back to that nest in a little bit. But here we are. This is Jefferson, our young one at NCTC now, named Jefferson by our North Jefferson elementary school students. Named him a few weeks ago. But here he is doing his wing exercises, wingersizing, hopping about. And if you watch the nest a lot, you'll see on a windy day, this is what they like to do. They're building up their strength and their exercises. Let's see, Lori, your feed froze. Try to refresh your screen. Refreshing your screen or restarting your video might help with that. And M. Pavia says, Jay or Jefferson seems more demure with Bella than with Smitty when it comes to snatching food. Yeah, well, Bella is bigger. And 2 years ago, when I just think back to the young one named Hope. Hope was very aggressive, and we think she was a young female. Boy, she would snatch the food. She would grab the leg or the talon, whoever brought it to her, and she definitely guarded the food. But yeah, it's fun to watch the young ones at this point. Now again, like I mentioned, he's 3 to 4 weeks away from being able to fly on his own, but it takes a long time to build up the strength and get themselves into flying condition. And there comes another fish. Looks like a red horse sucker. You can see those red fins there. We've got a lot of red horse suckers, and there comes the female Bella. Her feathers up, her hackles up. She's going to claim that fish. And yeah, again, thanks to Deb and Paul and everybody who's posting awesome videos and photos and answering questions. By the way, Deb and Paul will be our guests here, not in 2 weeks, but in a month from now. And they'll be talking about Bald Eagles 101 and citizen science. So they've been, if you've been on the Nest on the Outdoor Channel, you've seen Deb and Paul. They answer a lot of questions, post a lot of videos. Now we're back to Dale Hollow. So again, this is Tennessee. And there's the young one, about 12 weeks old, and I believe it's fledged, but here comes the adult. Now the nest has already, you can see the lower part of that nest has already collapsed. And the young one kind of goes off the side of it there. And you'll see what happens in just a minute. Now you can see it hanging upside down at this point, but it does release its grip. And 2 years ago we had a young one that actually it fledged, and when it came back to land on a branch, it picked a small branch. It didn't support the weight, and it was hanging upside down, kind of like this for a minute or so, and then it finally figured out it just needed to let go, and then it flew off, and it was okay. And so watch what happens here. There it goes. You saw the young one just for a second. It was upright and it flew off. And by the way, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency did come out and checked around this nest, and they confirmed that young bird is okay. And now that it's fledged, the adults, it will go to the river that it lives on, and the adults will be, I should say, one of the adults disappeared, but it will, the adult will help it out, and make sure it's got fish to eat and everything for pretty much for the rest of the summer. That's typically what we see at this nest. Even after they fledge, they'll come back for sometimes, not every day like we're seeing them in now, but maybe morning, evening, something like that. As the summer goes on, we'll see less of them in the nest. Let's see. Deb is saying the eaglet at Dale Hollow had not eaten for several days, so it was very hungry when Mom tried to land with the food. Yeah, it looked like it had been quite hungry there, went right after it. And Deb says it was only branching at this stage when the fall occurred. Okay, so it sort of had to fledge, or forced fledge, we might say at that point. So thanks, Deb, for that clarification. And so I think we are, if there's any more questions, go ahead and send them in. But we'll go back to our live nest right here. It looks like the young one is doing a little bit of preening here. And so thanks for joining us, everybody. Next week, I should say in 2 weeks, our guest will be Rich Bailey. He's the West Virginia State Ornithologist. And Rich will be talking about eagle populations in West Virginia and some of the interesting things he's seen over the years with eagles and other birds in this region. And by the way, if you are free at 2 o'clock, we have a program coming up on live West Virginia, or on our live stream channel, the NCTC Livestream channel, on Mexican wolves. Maggie Dwyer from our Albuquerque, New Mexico office was here last week, did a presentation in the auditorium on Mexican wolf recovery program. They are endangered species. That will be coming up at 2 p.m. If you go to livestream.com/NCTC, you'll find it, Mexican wolves, and coming up in about 10 minutes. And then, as I mentioned, 4 weeks from now, we'll have Deb Steck and Paul Koenig with us here on Live from the Eagle's Nest to talk about Bald Eagles 101 and their good work there. So we'll be looking forward to that. And Lori G says, thank you, Randy, Kristin, and all. It looks like her feed froze up again. Well, sorry about that, Lori G. Yeah, sometimes all you can do is just kind of refresh the screen, reboot or restart, and that usually takes care of it. So Deb says, I've already uploaded the Merlin app. Yeah, you'll like it, Deb. It's really neat. And I think it will work up at the North Pole for you, because they've got birds from all over the world on it, all over North America and different parts of the world as well. So with that, we will sign off. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us today, and enjoy the eagle watching.